Hi, my name is Toluwani Obayan. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'll be telling you my career story. Basically how I got into doing what I do. Many times I would go and hang out with my friends in arts class and they'll be reading literature books and I'll be like, you get to do this and you're studying, right? This is stuff I would do for free without anything. I had read so many books from how young, from when I was like 6, 7. So based on the experience, it feels as if I've had a much longer career than I have had. So it feels like my career time started counting from the time I did that internship. Now back to Wale Adenuga, because of my editing experience and some editing I had also done while I was also in Portsmouth, just casual editing, things I had done for church and stuff. I mentioned that I could edit. And they checked me out. The head of editing department was a man called Mr. Akin, or Akin Boboye, Mr. Ebenezer. He's called Mr. Ebenezer. He's late now. He had a stroke around that after I had been there for like a year or so. He had a stroke and he passed, sadly. A very wonderful man. He really believed in me. I wasn't as strong as most people then, but he saw what I could do and he said no. It won't take time for her to be really good. And I got the new system that they had just brought into Wale Adenuga Productions that time. And he gave me like several projects to finish doing. And once I finished those projects, I think I finished them really fast. By the time I finished doing them, he said, oh no, you're ready. He now started giving me real work to edit. And then by the time I left Wale Adenuga Productions, I was the head of This Life, in terms of I was in charge of editing I was in charge of the whole packaging for a show called This Life. So usually other editors, or I think one other editor, would work on the main rushes. I think I still used to work on some of the rushes, and then he would give me those things he had worked on, and then I would compile everything into what would be the episode, with the sound, with the music, with the transitions, with the cliffhangers. I would even have to get the quotes that we would use and stuff, and it would be approved. And once it got approved, it would be sent to the different TV stations that would air it. So yeah, so it was like, even though I stayed at Wale Adenuga for like 2 years plus, by the time I was done at Wale Adenuga, I had gone through I had started, climbed, and been able to have a rounded journey in editing, at least for the type of things that they produced there. And one of the good things, even though I was getting tired of it because I felt like I was doing the same thing every day and I wanted to do much more than just editing, the story part was always in my heart, and I've always wanted, since the screenwriting course especially, wanted to write. But one of the things that editing every single day did for me, and I didn't realize it at the time, was that even now as I write, or times I have directed, I don't just see what I'm writing before me, or what I can see the full picture, because the editor side of me can see how each shot or each action could link to the next. So it helped me have this eye for continuity, which I'm really grateful for. So the experience counts so much. After a while, I forgot at Wale Adenuga Productions, so I got into a bit of acting because my bosses just felt I would be good at it. So I tried it, but it's not like I loved it, because I really would rather not always be in front of the camera. I really prefer being behind the scenes, creating the whole experience. By the time I was leaving, because I had to leave after a while, because like I said, I was feeling very restless and I felt it was time, amongst other things, and I felt it was time to go, and I just didn't know what I was going to do. My brother and I, who had never really moved away from Canaan land that's quite guarded and safe, we lived on this place called Agbo Close, on this street called Agbo Close, and it was a close actually. And that street, even though it didn't look like it from the outside, happened to have a lot of people in the entertainment industry living there. I got to meet some people who were already in the industry, and I've got to, even at Wale Adenuga Productions, I became good friends with Kaide Kasum, who many of you would know is one of Nigeria's best directors. And so we already started doing some work together. I did a short film with him then. I wrote the short film he shot. He shot my first ever script, like the first script I got shot, it was him that did it there. So it's like I left WAP excited, thinking, okay, now the world has opened up to me. I'm about to write. And I didn't get any pay for a very long time. Thank God for understanding parents. My parents were very understanding, even though I had to write a document defending my reasons for leaving and explaining why I felt God was saying I should at that point in time. And so for some months, I think I left while I didn't go in May, and nothing really happened apart from the little things I would do here and there. Script I would get 10,000 for 10,000 naira, and anybody that's in writing knows that that's tiny. Or something I would get script consult or something. Like, it got better gradually, but there was a time where it wasn't like anything was coming in, and I was thankful to God for parents who would still support me, even though I had been out of school and I had gotten a master's, and it's not the ideal thing for you to be needing support from your parents after you've gone through all of that. But they were understanding and they were patient with me. Between May and I think February the next day, all I was really doing was working on my craft, which is not small. I studied, I practiced, I watched interviews, I watched roundtable conversations, the Hollywood roundtable conversations. And I remember one of those days, that period anyway, my dad came into my room one day, he saw me watching. I think he came in another time, I was still watching one of those things I would watch as I was working on myself. And he said, very seriously, he said, Toluwani, just keep on doing what you're doing, because one day you'll be in a place and it will make you stand out. It looks as if maybe nothing, he said it very prophetically, it looks as if nothing is happening right now, but all the work that you're putting in now, I should just keep at it, because very soon the distinction would happen. And looking back, it means much more to me today, even though it meant something to me then, but it means much more to me today, because it was not too long after that he died. He went to be with Jesus, and it keeps, like, there are times when it's easy to want to get maybe discouraged or stuff. And I remember when my dad said that, and he hadn't even seen the half of the beautiful things that have happened since then. He hasn't seen the half of it. But I always feel comforted knowing that God showed him in advance, even showed my mom too in advance, you know. So that's how so after leaving while I did productions, by the time I was like, I think December of that year, I got the inspiration, I believe God gave it to me, for a story and all I did was, I was closing my eyes to take a nap, and I saw a bench, and I opened my eyes, and immediately I knew what I needed to do with the bench. I knew it was going to be a single story that would happen around that bench. The bench would be in every scene. I wrote a script, and I worked with Mr. Chinedu Wabudike, wonderful, gifted, creative photographer, cinematographer. He's been such a blessing to me. Thank you, Mr. Chi, if you're watching. I worked with Chinedu Wabudike, and together we worked on everything, and we used one camera, like I said, the one I told you I edited and stuff. And I acted in it to show how low budget it was. I couldn't afford to get a second actress, not really. So I acted in it, and I got an actor in John Okon. I also I edited it myself too. I composed the music for it, even though I got a trumpeter. David wrote to me. He gave so much, he didn't collect anything really for it. And the project was just filled with people that kept on giving. Mr. Chitu didn't collect anything. I edited it. He helped me do, I think, the coloring. And then, what else? He helped me produce the track. Like, everything was done. It was very cheaply done, but we did the best we could at that point in time, and we submitted it for the Cannes Film Festival. And one of the things that I like to take from that experience is that I was like, we submitted it to Cannes, and when I submitted, Cannes said, I think in an email or something, that if I am not selected, I wouldn't get any information. That I would just know that I wasn't selected if I'm not contacted back or anything. But by the time they didn't select me, he still sent me an email saying I should still try again. So I took that as a very encouraging thing, because I was like, if it was terrible, maybe they won't have said anything. But the fact that they felt they should at least reply me and tell me mine didn't make it, I thought maybe it did. It got a level of a nod from them. So that was my first film. Should I say my debut directing? Before then, I had done a documentary in university, but this was the first thing I had done properly outside school. And then, so after I did that short film, a few months later, a friend of mine in Kechi, Wambudike, I have to go and check what Wambudike means, because there's the Wambudike in my life that have blessed me so much. A friend of mine in Kechi, Wambudike, she called me, and I'm not really good with phone calls. I miss calls, and I didn't even know this number. So she messaged me saying, "Tonight, I'm sure you're not picking because you don't know it's my number or something. I have something. She now told me about this political satire show that was coming, that was about to start in Nigeria, and I should send in my stuff because she felt I would be good for the job. I was like, satire, okay, comedy. Do I look like someone that can do comedy? And she's like, no, she thinks I can really do it. So I sent in my stuff, and then what they told me at that time was that unfortunately, because it came in a bit late, they had to go with other selections, but my stuff was good. So if there's any opening again, they will be back in touch with me. So I just said, okay, and Nkechi felt like, sorry that this didn't pan through, but here's another thing. And she had been on Nkechi also, before I forget that, she was once my roommate in uni, went to the same uni. She said that there's this other thing. She was a fellow on this Pan-African content storytelling creation program called Akoma by Amplify, founded by Zain Verji and Shidi Afluezi, amazing people. That I should also apply for this, that this is also something that's really good. And that was also a period I had been trusting God and surrendering a lot of things, and my career was not the most important thing on my heart anymore. There was a time when it was, but at this point I was like, God, even if nothing happens, I'm fine. As long as I thank God, as long as I have you, you are everything. Even if you tell me to do nothing, if you tell me to go and do this or do that, I will do it. I'm fine. So I had come to a very strong place of surrender at that point in time. And she got in touch with me and she said that I should try this application. So I applied for it, even on my phone. I didn't do it on my laptop, and I just wrote a few things. And I put in the film Heart and Mind that I had done, that nothing seemed to come of. And there were about 1,000 applicants, but they were only going to select 10 from my own country anyway. And at the end of the day, I was selected as part of the 10, and it was a wonderful experience. By the time we got there, one of the reasons they said I was selected is because they saw my film Heart and Mind. And they were very impressed, and they said that if she can do this kind of silent short film and have this is someone we want on board. And so sometimes it looks like you're doing stuff that's not worth much, but then God uses it to do a lot. And around that period too, when I was getting in, the period when I had gotten in for the fellowship, not long before that, the people at the other news, the show I mentioned that Nkechi got in touch with me about, someone had dropped off before the show even started. So immediately they got in touch with me, and I was hired. I mean, just not going into the details, I was hired, and here I was required to write satire. The only satire I had experience of was from things like Trevor Noah's show and all the comedy things I had watched growing up, and animation. So it's not like I had no foundation, but it's just that I never really thought of anything in that line. And the more I did it, the better I got, thank God. Most obviously, more studying, more exposure, a lot of praying for help in direction on what to study and for my mind to be open up in that direction. And by 2019, I was asked to be the head writer of the show. I started on the show in 2017. The creative direction of flow of the narrative for each episode, and how do we push truth to power. How do we still bring out the funny even though this situation is extremely annoying? How do we make people laugh and think, So that's what I was doing constantly on the other news. Then, but as the other news was also going on, at a point I thought, okay, maybe film is supposed to take a backseat to this, because the other news was also very time consuming, mentally exhausting, because writing jokes was not the easiest thing to do, especially when you need to do it with the news. And you used to do it consistently, so it felt like there was always so much to do. And there was a time when we went on break on the other news, and my friend Kayode got in touch with me a time before. He had gotten in touch with me and he wanted us to do some work together on a film, and I wasn't available then. But he got in touch with me again, and he was like, Toluwani, there's this script and like I want you to work on it. He now had an idea, and then we discussed it. Of course, the idea changed and stuff. If it didn't evolve, I won't have really been doing my job, right? So and that film is what ended up being This Lady Called Life. I was like, before then I had done other films, like I mentioned. It's just that some of the terms and conditions of writing those films were not always the best. I had also done a travel documentary type series with Explore the World with Tyndall, and we got an award in Cape Town. This Lady Called Life, I would say, was, if anything, the reason I mention it substantially maybe is because it's also my first cinematic release. The other ones I had done were maybe for TV or maybe African Magic or YouTube. Apart from the other news, which goes on TV every week, but there's also a YouTube channel, which the other news was on Channels TV. Since This Lady Called Life, the other ones I have written, even though they've still not come out yet because of everything pandemic related, since then I've written like how many now? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm about to write a 5th one now, I think. There are 5 more coming soon after This Lady Called Life that are also cinematic releases, and there'll be much more by the time, because it keeps on. People keep getting in touch and wanting to do work, so yeah. And then so that's as regards film, but then also this 2019 period was also when I guess the business side of me started opening up much more, because I really don't, on a normal day, I'm not a business person. It's only by God's grace that maybe the evolution has happened, and the way things are currently, right now today, I think I'll call it a company. You might have been seeing the company logo opening up everything I put up on YouTube right now, because, well, it's my company that's sponsoring it. Every video I put up, it's my company's resources, I guess, or something like that. It's my company shots. So Toluwani Obayan Works, and the name is also very interesting because it's not like I really planned on calling that. I had one other type of creative name, but I feel it's what God wanted me to go with. And Toluwani Obayan Works started out initially as everything scripts, everything narrative ideation, but then people started getting in touch with me to do much more than scripts and narrative ideation. People wanted to do productions as well. They wanted me to oversee the creative direction and everything of things that they were producing. So, because also I have some experience in directing. Like, my company has done things that have to do with radio. My company has trained writers. My company has done script consults, and so everything in terms of script writing, script consulting, creative direction, production, narrative ideation, media production. That's what Toluwani Obayan Works does. And then, looking at when I wanted to be a doctor at the age of 9, I could never have seen that this is where I would be today. I couldn't see that picture. I really didn't know. There was a time I felt like, do I even know what I'm doing in this life? Because I sing. And now, music, I forgot to mention music. Music is part of what Toluwani Obayan Works does. Not just generic music, but especially music for film. So I was like, all these things, how do they come together? I look like someone that is not serious. Today I'm releasing something song related. Another time I'm releasing a book. I forgot a book. I wrote a book too called Becoming a Spectacular Woman. And I'll talk about how I wrote that book on another episode. But I was like, how do these things even correlate? You're singing, you're writing songs, you're writing films, you're editing, you're doing production, you're directing. Choose something, have a focus, and you don't look like you're focused. And that time, a lot of the mantras that were going out was like, a person that is not focused is not this. A person was like, I'm like, but is it my fault that it feels like I have so many gifts? The career journey is still evolving. But right now I have a company and it's called Toluwani Obayan Works, and it brings everything together. I wrote a song called Life. It's part of my career journey too. That's why I mentioned so many of the in quotes, meandering nature of my journey, so that bringing everything into now, which is also still evolving, things are coming more into a quote focus. Thank you for watching. If there's anything you want to know more about my career journey that I forgot to mention, please also let me know in the comment section. And what else?